that inflation in September ticked back up to 3%. That's the highest level since January. I want you to take a listen to something that President-elect Trump told me back in December. Take a look.
I started using the word, the groceries, when you buy apples, when you buy bacon, when you buy eggs, they would double and triple the price over a short period of time. And I won an election based on that. We're going to bring those prices way down.
Mr. Secretary, coffee prices are up 19% from a year ago. Beef is up almost 15%, and bacon up almost 6%, just to name a few. So when are all grocery prices going to come down, as President Trump promised?
Well, Christine, it's unfortunate. As much as I like you, you like to cherry pick. So, when we came in, it was eggflation, eggflation, eggflation. Egg prices are down, gasoline prices are down. Overall, the inflation since President Trump has come in, has come down. We inherited this terrible affordability crisis from the Biden administration. The first thing we had to do was get it under control. And this month's inflation number was actually below the consensus number. If we look at core inflation, it was 0.2%, which was the lowest it's been in a long time. Rents are coming down. So, Christian, you don't get to cherry pick. Inflation is a composite number, and I'm confident that in the coming months, inflation is going to come down.
Just to be very clear, though, CPI has been higher in the past 3 months than it was in the first 5 months of the year. If President Trump's economic policies are working, why is inflation up? Why are those grocery prices that I just mentioned that he said were so critical, why are they up?
Well, again, Kristen, you're cherry picking because inflation actually had a drop, the first drop in 4 years in March and April under President Trump. And I am confident that as we come into the coming numbers, that we will see a drop in inflation back towards the Fed's 2% target. And I assume your next question is going to be to blame it on tariffs. And the imported goods have actually been quite flat or dropped, and it's mostly service goods. And another factor in the inflation report is what's called investment management income, and that's inflation that goes up because the stock market goes up, so management fees are higher.
Okay, let me turn to another big issue. The Trump administration recently extended a $20 billion lifeline to Argentina that has gotten some bipartisan criticism, Mr. Secretary, including from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. I'll read you a little bit of what she wrote. She says, quote, "Americans are getting decimated with high cost of living and skyrocketing insurance costs. Many of them have zero savings and some are maxing out credit cards to survive. Tell me how it's America first to bail out a foreign country with 20 or even 40 billion taxpayer dollars. How is this move America first, Mr. Secretary?"
Well, Kristen, it is America first because we are supporting a U.S. ally. There will be no taxpayer losses. This is a swap line. This is not a bailout. And it is from the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which Treasury, I control at Treasury. It is never registered a loss. It is not going to register a loss this time. We are supporting a U.S. ally in Latin America, and we want to set the tone in Latin America because look at what's going on in Venezuela. It is a failed narco state, and I'm a big fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think she's a fantastic voice in Congress. But please let me finish. So we think it is much better to use American economic power up front to stabilize a friendly government and lead the way, because we've got many other governments. We've got many other governments in Latin America, Bolivia, Ecuador, Paraguay, who all want to follow. So I would rather extend a swap line than be shooting at the boats carrying drugs that we're having to coming out of Venezuela.
Well, you take me to my next question, because the military has now launched 10 attacks, killing more than 40 people. against these suspected drug smuggling boats, as you just referenced. Is the United States at war with Venezuela, Mr. Secretary?
Chris and I have a big portfolio. Defense is not one of them. I think you'd have to ask our great Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, or Secretary of State Marco Rubio on that. But what I can tell you is the President's committed to protecting U.S. citizens from the ravages of these drugs. And also, you were asking earlier about the China trade deal, and part of that is going to include very substantial cooperation to stop the precursor drugs on fentanyl, which make their way to Mexico, to Canada, and kill hundreds of thousands of Americans a year and ruin families.
Well, and it's worth noting that the vast majority of fentanyl comes to the U.S. from Mexico. Let me ask you, because we're almost out of time, I just want to get two more questions in. The East Wing of the White House was demolished this week to make way for President Trump's plans for a ballroom, as you know. It surprised a lot of people, given that President Trump said this back in July. Take a look.
It won't interfere with the current building. It'll be near it, but not touching it, and pays total respect to the existing building, which I'm the biggest fan of. It's my favorite place. I love it.
Why didn't the president tell the public he was going to tear down the entire East Wing, which, as you know, is a part of the People's House?
Well, again, I think this was a judgment call on the president. The president is a master builder. And Kristen, I was for many years on the board of something called Classical American Homes, and I completely endorse what the president's doing here with the ballroom. And I don't know. I assume that maybe parts of the East Wing could have been asbestos, could have been mold, could have not fit with the design, but the classical architecture firm that's doing this is a magnificent structure that's going up. That my office looks over it, and I'm watching the demolition here, and the construction that's already underway, and this is moving at warp speed, and I think it's going to be something that all Americans can be proud of. And we have a history of presidents renovating and adding to the White House campus. It started with Thomas Jefferson. I don't think anybody would argue that when Thomas Jefferson added the colonnades, it was controversial at the time.
Yeah, Mr. Secretary, and of course the question is about his revealing to the American public and saying he wouldn't have to actually tear down the building, and now that's what's happening. But very quickly, before I let you go, we're now in the second longest shutdown in U.S. history. When will President Trump meet with Democrats to try to bring this shutdown to a close and get federal workers their paychecks back again, Mr. Secretary?
Well, Kristen, I'm going to have to reject the premise of your question. Why did President Trump have to meet with Democrats? Democrats just need to go into the Senate and vote to end the shutdown.
But President Trump has said in the past it's up to the president. He's the president. No, he said that in the past. He said you have to be a leader. The president has to lead. You have to get people into a room. You have to get a deal. When's he going to do that?
Well, he is leading, and there's no deal to do with Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is trading off his polls. What's different than when he passed the clean CR in the spring? It's his polls. The whole country is being held captive to AOC's polls. But let's look at the numbers. It's 52-3. 52 Republicans have voted, I believe it's 11 times, to reopen the government. 3 Democrats have. And right here, right now, I would urge moderate Democratic senators to come across the aisle, reopen the government, because I'll tell you, we're starting to eat in the muscle here. This is starting to affect travel, it's starting to affect the economy, and this is quixotic. I don't know what the purpose is. I'm not sure they do.
All right. Secretary Scott Bessent, thank you so much. Safe travels. We appreciate your joining us. When we come back, Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona joins me next.